Hi everyone, and welcome to a bonus episode of the Underworld podcast. I'm Sean Williams. Me and Danny Gold are journalists. We tell stories, we go places, report on them, we get drunk, probably get into trouble in the process. You know all this because you're actually paying for the show, and we love you for it. So, namaste and welcome to something a little bit different. Normally we speak to people who have these interesting interviews, but I wanted to do a mini episode because, well, a couple of things been rolling around in my head, and I think you guys might enjoy it. So, namaste and welcome to the show that tells you how you can get away with literally anything with a sharp cut and a three-piece suit. That's something Danny knows very, very well. So if you've been listening to us over the past few months, you'll know that I was planning to head to Nepal over the new year, which COVID nixed. And I've been writing a TV show about the heroin trade. I'm going to do Nepal in July. I'll definitely put together something for the pod while I'm out there, which is going to be pretty fun. But something I found in an old Mother Jones article while researching this TV show really stood out to me. And that's that this single Nepalese hill tribe was instrumental in the heroin trade throughout the 70s and 80s. That's when Khun Sar, the Burmese warlord, was becoming the world's biggest drug trafficker. And number 5 smack was decimating cities all over the world, especially among the Vietnam vets of the USA. I guess this is an episode about generations, really, because as we'll find out, that single tribe is still affecting Nepal deeply today, especially in the form of one gangster-turned-politician with a penchant for suits and shades and hard talking and, well, a little bit more besides that. But first, we're going to go back to the 60s. The Beatles have gone off the deep end. George Harrison's playing the sitar with Ravi Shankar, and he's prompting hundreds of thousands of Western kids to step out onto the hippie trail. This was a route that snaked from Europe into Turkey and Central Asia, across the Himalayas into Nepal, India, Sri Lanka, and eventually Southeast Asia. This was a time when you went to Iran and Afghanistan to get messed up on weed and dope. How the world changes. But yeah, the basic plan was go as far as you can, get as high as you can, and spend as little as humanly possible. I mean, yeah, there were the Goombas who headed out in VW campers and the like. I might have been one of them myself. But most hitchhiked or rode trains, just got places hook or by crook, that kind of stuff, however you can do it. There was yoga, have-a-go Buddhists, free love, sexual abuse, systemic racism, all the things we love and remember about the 1960s. And, yeah, obviously there were a lot of drugs. Afghanistan, which Danny has gotten into with a mega two-parter, that was the dawn of opium and weed production back then. But tiny Nepal, this strange little mountain kingdom that had somehow stayed independent throughout the British takeover of South Asia, its own cannabis resin was known on the trail as really, really good shit. And it still is. The Nepalese cops raid weed farms like all the time, and because of its geography, which is perched between Tibet and India, it's been a prime spot for drugs and people trafficking pretty much forever. During the heroin epidemics of the 70s and early 80s, Kathmandu's rinky-dink international airport became, alongside Bangkok, Calcutta and Delhi, a major transshipment point for global heroin smugglers. In the late 60s, Western powers paid the then king, Birendra, $50 million to outlaw heroin. That's a drug he barely even knew existed, which is, in today's money, around $500 million. Here's a quote from a book called The King of Nepal by Joseph Pietri. Quote, "Everyone was supposed to turn their stock in to the government. All the hash shops and coffee houses were closed. Hippies were put on trucks and deported. Everything and everyone went underground." And he goes on, quote, "In 1970, there was no such thing as a Nepalese junkie. 30 years later," so he's writing this in 2000, "there are thousands of heroin addicts in a place where no opium is grown and no heroin produced. Overnight, the king of Nepal had made every Hindu a criminal. Nepal would turn from a peaceful hippie scene into a heroin nightmare." And yeah, there's a fair bit of hyperbole, and I guess this book is an argument for legalization. But he says at the time, the government took the money and drove this industry underground itself, with no small help from some people called the Manangi. But who are they? Well, the Manangi have long been considered outsiders in their own country. They speak a pseudo-Tibetan language and they follow a pre-Buddhism religion called Bun. Their main town of Manang is carved from the base of the Annapurna Massif, best known to outsiders as a place of acclimatization before people embark on the 5,415-metre Throng La Pass. At 3,500 metres itself, this place is home to the world's highest lake, and its 7,000 people live modestly in simple cinder block homes. Compared to the incredible rock-hewn monasteries just minutes away, they're not really much to look at. But the Manangi, they're rich. At least they were. Outcast for their beliefs, in the 1950s, King Mahendra gave the Manangi a special permit to trade across borders for free. For centuries, they'd been successful yak, buckwheat and barley traders until China's occupation of Tibet reined them in. Mahendra's edict freed them to go global. Not only that, but Manangi would control the Nepali route of the opium and heroin trades out of Southeast Asia's Golden Triangle region, ferrying millions of dollars of high grade across the Annapurna on the back of mules. Manangi bought property in Kathmandu, and at one point in the 1980s, up to a third of all property in the Nepalese capital was owned by the Manangi traders, smugglers, and of course drug barons. Affordable air travel brought even more revenue around that time as tourists flocked to trek the roof of the world. But envy and hate flourished. Manangi's got a reputation as thugs, and hate crimes against them grew in Kathmandu and well far beyond. International travel left little room for their ancient language, and today, as few as 300 people speak it. So you've got this outcast tribe, they're essentially ethnic Tibetans, followers of a strange religion, they're gatekeepers of a part of the Himalayas nobody but them knows how to navigate, on winding mountain passes and treacherous roads, impassable even to mopeds, much less to the DEA and other agents. They're kind of Sherpas for drugs. They remind me of the clans who built Petra in ancient Jordan. I actually spoke to an elder there a while back, and he told me their whole culture was built on this unique trading image. He said, "We are traders. Surviving is what we do." But geopolitics and the death of the Golden Triangle heroin trade in the 90s, that put paid to the Manangi monopoly on the Himalayan route. Now they mostly survive on tourism to the Annapurna. Today, their survival is actually on the line. And it's because in 2015, the Nepalese government built a road through their homeland, bringing traffic and pollution that's killing their trade. But also climate change is melting the ice caps and ruining Manangi's chance to farm and do other vital things. Says another guy I've spoken to called Bidola, and he's written a book about Manangi culture, quote, "These people have gone through centuries of pain and come through with shining colours. These things could be their death." So there goes the story of the heroin peddling Manangi of Nepal. But the story's not quite finished, because there's a guy in Nepalese politics today who's trading off their badass name. Rajiv Gurung, better known as Deepak Manangi, was born in Kathmandu probably around the 1960s, and he started a protection racket in its central Tamil district in the 90s, extorting tourist hotels and bars. In 2003, Manangi, who calls himself a Don, attacked a rival gang leader named Milan Chakre, beating him so severely that Chakre's arm was almost severed. In 2008, Manangi gets sent down for a year. It's one of dozens of run-ins with the law. But he gets out because, get this, he manages to convince the court he's actually Rajiv Gurung, not the Deepak Manangi named in the documents. Cool. Then he starts currying favour with the government, presenting this smooth criminal image in the local media. Like, this guy doesn't even bother with the reform part of that PR campaign. He's a mafia don, and politicians seem to like it. He loves a suit, a sharp haircut, and suddenly, everything is forgiven. Manangi wins a parliament seat in 2017 in, yeah, you guessed it, Manang. And then, amazingly, a court issues a warrant for his arrest on an attempted murder charge, and he goes on the run. I mean, somebody needs to tell me exactly how the next bit happened. But while he was in prison, Manangi's sworn into office for the Nepal Communist Party soon after. And I guess this means he has privilege as a politician from the law? I don't know. Seems completely legit. As recent as last April, Manangi became Nepal's sports minister, even though he was arrested again for abusing and beating someone in a Nepali football association. And I'm still hoping to interview this guy for the pod in July, so watch this space. But yeah, I mean, that's the story of the Nepalese heroin tribe and the gangster politico traded in on their good name to evade the cops. And if you enjoyed this little mini Underworld show, we've got tons of stuff that we leave on the cutting floor. It's pretty fun putting a show like this together. So let me know what you think. Rate it well, of course. And we'll see you soon for a main show.